Valava Girivarinane Jaya Gopinjana Valava Girivarinane Yashodanananda Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanananda Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachara Yamuna Tira Vanachara Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyare Jaya Gopinjana Valava Girivaridane Jaya Gopinjana Valava Girivaridane Yashodanananda Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanananda Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachara Yamuna Tira Vanachara Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyare Jaya Gopinjana Valava Girivaridare Jaya Gopinjana Valava Girivaridare Yashodanananda Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanananda Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachara Yamuna Tira Vanachara Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyare Jaya Gopinjana Valava Girivaridare Jaya Gopinjana Valava Girivaridare Yashodanananda Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodana Nanda Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Shama Sundara Radha Shama Sundara Radhe. Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Baladev, Jayo Subhadra. Jayo Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita, Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita. Jayo Panchatattva, Jayo Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jayo Panchatattva. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaur Hariva, 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 Gaur Hariva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Astotra Satta Sri Srimat, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanara Virina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Savior of the whole world, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravista Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Astotra Satta Sri Srimat, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Brahmacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhama Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai, Sri Mathura Dhama Ki Jai, Sri Ramaya Pradama Ki Jai, Sri Navadvip Dhama Ki Jai, Neelachala Jagannatapuri Dhama Ki Jai, Ayodhya Dhama Ki Jai, Dwaraka Dhama Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Govinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai, Narasimhadev Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Sri Sri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai, Samavera Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Shri Gaura Premnandi. All glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Tinamni Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sadhana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 18, entitled The Perfection of Renunciation. And today we are treating text 68. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhakteshu abhidyasi bhaktimai param kritva mam ivashyasati asamsayaha. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhakteshu abhidasyati bhaktimai param kritva mam evaishyati asamsayaha. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhaktesu abhidasyati bhaktimai param kritva mam evaishyati asamsayaha. You can try. Yaridam paramam guyam mam evaishyati abhidasyati bhaktimai param kritva mam evaishyati asamsayaha. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhaktesu abhidyasi bhaktimai param kritva mam evaishyasti asamsayaha. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhaktesu abhidasyati bhaktimai param kritva mam evaishyasti asamsayaha. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhaktesu abhidasyati bhaktimai param kritva mam evaishyasti asamsayaha. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhaktesu abhidasyati bhaktimai param kritva mam evaishyati asamsayaha. Ladies. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhaktesu abidyasi bhakti mai param kritva mam evashyasi asamsayaha. Yaridam paramam guyam mad bhaktesu abidasyati bhakti mai param kritva mam evashyasi asamsayaha. Word for word translation. Yaha, anyone who, idam, this, paramam, most, guyam, confidential. Okay, confidential secret. Mat, of mine. Bhaktesu, amongst devotees. Abhidasyati, explains. Bhaktim, devotional service. Mai, unto me. Param, transcendental. Kritva, doing. Mam, unto me. Eva, certainly. Eshyati, comes. Asamsayaha, without doubt. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. Please repeat responsibly. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Generally, it is advised that Bhagavad-Gita be discussed amongst the devotees only. For those who are not devotees will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad-Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is and Bhagavad-Gita as it is should not try to explain Bhagavad-Gita whimsically and become offenders. Bhagavad-Gita should be explained to persons who are ready to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is a subject matter for the devotees only and not for philosophical speculators. Anyone, however, who tries sincerely to present Bhagavad Gita as it is will advance in devotional activities and reach the pure devotional state of life. As a result of such pure devotion, he is sure to go back home, back to Godhead. I will want to read the next verse also. The next verse says, Nacha tasma manesheshu kaschim me priya kritamaha bhavita nacha me tasmat anya priyataro bhuvi. Translation. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. I read it again. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Om Jnanatimirasya Jnanan Jnanashalakaya Chakshuramalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Caitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swamini Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashritatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirthariti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvesesa Suyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratvize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendor Vasuda Pranavalabha Janavir Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutasrimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gaura Kele Varaha Advaitam Harinadvaita Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhakta Yutam Cham Advaita Acharya Ashraye Panchatattvamakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanahitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Shamamiva Param Rupam Puri Madhu Puri Varaha Vaya Kaishorikam Dhyayam Adya Rasa Parorasaham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Mandir Gatima Sarvaswa Padam Bujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divyal Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumada Srimad Radhat Gara Simhasanustau Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Pristyali Visevya Manosmarami Shrimam Rasa Rasaram Vivam Sivata Tatastita Karasan Venu Swanai Gopi Gopinata Sri Estunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yaridam paramam guyam madbhakteshu abhidyasyati bhaktimai param kritva mam evashyasi asamsayaha. Translation: for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. Then 69 says, Nachatasman manusyesu kaschin me priya kritamaha. Bhavitadna chame tasmat anya priyataro bhuvi. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam lagayete grim yat kripatamahan vande Shri Guru Dinantaranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Caitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandalakram Vyaptayina Chara Charam Tadpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna. So everyone is welcome to today's discussion. And today we are looking at these two verses spoken by Lord Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita. And what is the Lord saying? He says, for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. Then the Lord further went on to state that there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So in these two verses, we can understand the importance of spreading Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna himself is highlighting the importance of distributing this knowledge of Krishna consciousness to others. Krishna spoke the whole Bhagavad-Gita to Arjuna from chapter 2 to chapter 17. And he discusses many different topics. Karma yoga, Jnana yoga, Astanga yoga. But in this chapter, chapter 18, which is the conclusion of Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna touches upon almost everything he had discussed from chapter 2 to chapter 17. And then Krishna makes his final statement in 66 of this chapter. Sarva dharma parityajya mam ekam shranavraja. Aham tvam sarvapa bibyo mokshai shami masuchaha. Krishna is spelling out what he wants us to do. So this is Krishna's desire. He wants everyone to surrender unto him. Actually, that is our natural constitutional position. We are eternally servants of Krishna. Jivera Swarupahaya Krishna Nityadas. We are eternally servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our constitutional position. In fact, 3/4 of the living entities are in this position. The living entities in the spiritual world who actually outnumber the living entities in the material world, they are in this position. They are all surrendered souls. And that is the natural position for the living entity. When the living entity surrenders to Krishna, then he has no anxiety. He has no problem with material energy. But as soon as the living entity refuses to surrender to the Supreme Lord, then the Supreme Lord hands him over to the material energy. And as soon as the living entity comes in contact with the material energy, his difficulty begins. His problems begin. Therefore, Lord Rishabhadev says that a living entity is supposed not to get a material body. The living entity is not supposed to acquire a material body and a material birth and a material planet. Because that is the beginning of the trouble. That is the beginning of the difficulty. That is the beginning of the miseries. As soon as you acquire a material body and you take birth in this material world, that is the beginning of the trouble. So therefore, Lord Rishabhadev says, it is an embarrassment for the living entity to acquire a material body. But how does a material body come about? The material body comes about because we refuse to surrender unto Krishna. Therefore, Krishna hands us over to the material energy. So, once Krishna has come into the material world and he has seen how we are suffering, he has witnessed our difficulties, Krishna is giving us a clue. Krishna is giving us that instruction that can take us out of this material world. So this verse, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. This is Krishna's supreme instruction. But how do we execute this instruction? How do we carry out this instruction if we do not meet devotees? If we do not come in touch with devotees, how shall we even know about this instruction? What to speak about following it? So therefore, it is important that we meet devotees. And it is only by meeting devotees that we can know about Krishna's instruction, and we can hear about Krishna, and we will become inspired to execute devotional service. So, meeting devotees, hearing from them, taking guidance from them, practicing Krishna consciousness is very important. And that is why Krishna is speaking these verses here. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. So Krishna is saying, the one who explains this supreme secret. What is the supreme secret? The supreme secret is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarva dharma parityajya. So therefore, we see that after Krishna has spoken Bhagavad-Gita and left, he was thinking that I have given this divine instruction, but I did not actually demonstrate how to apply this instruction. After Krishna had spoken the Bhagavad-Gita and performed his pastimes in Vrindavan, in Dwaraka, in Mathura, and Krishna had left the planet back to Goloka, Krishna was thinking that I've spoken the Bhagavad-Gita, I've given the Bhagavad-Gita to the living entities in the material world. But I did not demonstrate how they can apply these instructions. Therefore, Krishna came back. And this time, he came back as a devotee, in the dress of a devotee. Even though he is Krishna himself, but he came as a devotee. And the reason for coming as a devotee is to exemplify. The reason why he came as a devotee is to demonstrate. The reason why he came as a devotee is to actually practice. Show by example how to apply this law. So, Lord Krishna came back into this world as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He came back as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And even though Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's not different from Krishna, but he came in the guise of a devotee. He came in the dress of a devotee in order to demonstrate how to execute this rule, this law. So therefore it is mentioned in the Caitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Lila, the external reasons for the appearance of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. We also happen to be in the month of March. And on the 28th of this month, we are going to celebrate the appearance of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Caitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the month of March, Falgumas. For what reason? Why did the Lord appear again 5,000 years after he appeared as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, and spoke Bhagavad-Gita to the world? So Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami writes, Anapita Chiram Chirat Karunaya Vatirna Kalo Samapayitum Yunat Jwala Rasam Swabhaktim Sriyam Hari Purata Sundara Duty Kadamba Sandipitaha Sada Hirdaya Kandare Spuratu Va Sachinandanaha. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So, 5,000 years back, Krishna appeared in his original form and instructed everyone to surrender unto him. Everyone to abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender in love unto him. But exactly how to surrender in love unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead wasn't demonstrated. So therefore, when the Lord returned to Vaikuntha, when he returned to Goloka, he was considering that I have given such an important instruction, but I did not demonstrate how this should be followed. Therefore, the Lord decided to come back in the guise of a devotee, in the form of a devotee, in order to demonstrate how this law, this instruction can be followed. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj furthermore stated, Chira kala nahi kari prema bhakti dhanaha bhakti vina jagatera nahi avashtanaha. For a long time, I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. So, without the signs of loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all material activities are useless. Because the real goal, the real objective of our life is actually love of God. This love of God is actually what will satisfy the living entity. any other thing will not satisfy us. Love of God is our constitutional right. It is our relationship, eternal relationship, loving relationship with the Supreme. And that activity actually satisfies the jiva, the soul. So even though mankind is engaged in so many activities in this world, but the fact is, no one is satisfied. No one is actually happy. Everyone is frustrated without the love of Godhead. So therefore, the Lord is saying here that without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Furthermore, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami states, Sakala jagate more kare vidi bhakti. Vidi bhakti vraje bhava paite nahi sakti. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions. But simply by following such regulatory principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Brajabhumi. This is very important. Everywhere in the world, people are worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead by scriptural injunctions. But simply by following such regulatory principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Brajabhumi. In other words, if one is not aware of the relationships, the loving relationships between the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one may pursue his religion very vigorously. But if we do not understand our relationships, the loving relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we cannot actually come to the platform of loving the Lord like how the residents of Brajabhumi love the Lord. In other words, there are 4 active rasas, 4 active relationships between the living entity and the Lord. The 5th relationship is described as Santaras, service in neutrality. Generally, that is not counted because as soon as one comes to the platform of understanding the 4 relationships with the Lord, he would not remain on the platform of Santaras. He would immediately want to interact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because that gives him more pleasure. Therefore, the 4 basic relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead are most important. Dasya Ras, acting as a servant to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sakya Ras, acting as a friend to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vasalya Ras, acting as a parent to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Madhurya Ras, acting as a lover to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These 4 relationships are our eternal relationships with the Supreme Lord, are our eternal flavors, how we relate and deal, interact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So without this knowledge, simply following scriptural injunctions cannot bring the living entity to the platform of that loving experiences that is common with the residents of Vrindavan. In other words, the loving sentiments of the residents of Vrindavan is considered the topmost and the most intense feeling of the living entity in relationship to the Supreme Lord. And until one comes to that platform, one cannot actually experience that intense love. Simply following scriptural injunctions, simply following scriptural rules, without understanding these four basic rasas, basic relationships with the Supreme, is not enough. Furthermore, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj says, Yuga Dharma Pravat Taimu Nam Sankirtan Chari Bhava Bhakti Diya Nachamu Bhuvana. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the four mellows of loving devotional service. Jai Sri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Then Krishna decided, he says, Apane Achari Bhakti Shikamu Sabare. I shall accept the role of a devotee and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. And then he says, Apane na kaila dharma, shikana na yaya, eta shidanta gita bhagavate gaya. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we see that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared in this world, even though he is the Supreme Lord himself, he disguised himself as a devotee. And what was the reason for disguising himself as a devotee? Simply to preach Krishna consciousness to the world. So, while he was in his household life, he established a school. And in the school, he was simply teaching Krishna consciousness. In his grammar, teaching of grammar, Sanskrit grammar, Caitanya Mahaprabhu will simply preach Krishna consciousness. In his youth, he started the Harinam Nagara Sankirtan. Nagara Sankirtan. And he spread the holy name of Krishna throughout Nadia. And then when he took sannyas at the age of 24, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, on the order of his mother, he went to Puri. But he did not stay in Puri. He traveled the breadth and length of India. Those days, there were no means of transport. There were not even horse transport. Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he walked. He walked from Jagannath Puri all the way to South India. It took him 6 months to walk all the way from Puri to South India. And then he came back. And then he walked all the way to Vrindavan. And then he came back. So, what was he doing? He was simply preaching Krishna consciousness throughout his whole journey. On the way, anybody he would meet, he would preach Krishna consciousness. In any town he will stop, he would perform kirtan and he would speak about Krishna consciousness. And in this way, he made many, many, many people Vaishnavas. It is actually mentioned that in South India, the people were very deep in all kinds of philosophies. The people were very attached to Voidism, to Jainism, to Buddhism, to all kinds of philosophy. But Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he converted all of them into Vaishnavas, into worshippers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, this is his mission. The mission of the Lord is to give Krishna consciousness. Vande Sri Krishna Caitanya Krishna Bhava Mrita Hiyaha Aswadya Swadyam Bhaktam Prema Diksham Asikshayat. That Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he came into this world with one purpose in mind. Krishna Bhava Mritam. Krishna Bhava Mritam. Krishna Bhava Mritam means the nectar of Krishna consciousness. His main purpose of coming down into this world is to distribute the nectar of Krishna consciousness, to distribute the sweetness of Krishna consciousness. That is the reason why he came. And so, while he was journeying from village to village, city to city, person to person, he was simply sharing this nectar of Krishna consciousness with everyone he met. It is said that Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he tasted the nectar of Krishna consciousness. He relished the nectar of Krishna consciousness, and then he initiated anybody he met into the practice of this nectarian Krishna consciousness. That was his mission. His mission is to give everyone the chance to taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness. And so, he also empowered his devotees. He did not do it alone. It is said he used to send Haridas Thakur when he was still in Mayapur, in Nadia. Every day he would send Haridas Thakur and Lonityananda to go from house to house, to go from cottage to cottage, to engage everyone in chanting the holy names of Krishna, to engage everyone, to explain to everyone the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This was his mission. And then, when he was in Puri, he instructed Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, and Jiva Goswami. He sent them to Vrindavan that they should go and establish this Krishna consciousness very strongly in Vrindavan. So the Lord himself, he is demonstrating the importance of spreading Krishna consciousness, because that is the way by which the living entity can surrender to Krishna. One cannot surrender to Krishna without hearing about Krishna. One cannot surrender to Krishna without meeting the devotees of Krishna. To surrender to Krishna, one must first meet the devotees of Krishna, and then he has to hear from them, and then he then contemplates of what he has heard, and that would mature into surrendering to Krishna. And that is why Krishna is making this statement here, that one who explains, for one who explains this supreme secret. What is that secret? Love of Godhead. Krishna Bhava Mritam. Krishna Bhava Mritam. The nectarian relationship, that the living entity has with Krishna is not known in this world. Because the living entity is covered by the three modes of nature. So long as we are covered by the modes of nature, we cannot experience the nectarian relationship we have with God. And therefore, we are always hankering. What are we hankering for? We are hankering for that nectarian relationship. And we are thinking that material relationship will produce that nectarian experience. But it will not. Because material relationships cannot produce spiritual pleasure. That is a fact. So therefore, we need the devotees to explain this secret love of Godhead, to explain our relationship with Krishna, our rasa, our eternal relationship with Krishna. Only the devotees, they can explain this. But it is important that the living entity needs to know what is my relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, by this information about the relationships that every living entity has with the Lord. And one can also learn how to revive these relationships with the Supreme Lord. And by reviving our relationship, we can actually experience what we are hankering for, life after life. So, therefore, preaching about Krishna, spreading the glories of Krishna is so important that the Lord himself has to come back in disguise as a devotee. That is Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is called Chana Avatar. Chana Avatar means covered avatar, secret avatar, disguised avatar. Even though he is Krishna himself, but he came in a disguised form as a devotee so that he can practice Krishna consciousness, demonstrate how to practice, and then distribute it. Actually, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says one thing here. Apane na kaila dharma, shikana na yaya, eta shidanta gita, Bhagavate Gaya. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, the Lord came as a devotee to demonstrate the importance of practicing Krishna consciousness and distributing Krishna consciousness. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada's mission is the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. We see that because Rupa Goswami actually established Krishna consciousness, according to Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he was empowered. It is mentioned how Rupa Goswami was empowered by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Priya Swarupe Dayita Swarupe, Prema Swarupe Saha Java Birupe, Ninja Rupe, Prabhur Eka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Vilasa Rupe. Srila Rupa Goswami, whose dear friend was Swarup Damodar, was the exact replica of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, he was very, very, very dear to Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Being the embodiment of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very beautiful. Rupa Goswami was very beautiful because he was empowered by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He was actually the embodiment of the teachings of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So Rupa Goswami, because he took to the preaching, Rupa Goswami was actually a minister. He was a finance minister of the Muslim governor. But he gave it up and followed Caitanya Mahaprabhu and became his principal preacher. And therefore, Caitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him. We also see Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a magistrate. But he was so dedicated to the preaching mission of Caitanya Mahaprabhu that he was also empowered. Actually, it is said that Caitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace was lost, and many people tried to find it, but they could not find it. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because of his preaching mood, because he took up the preaching mission very seriously, Caitanya Mahaprabhu revealed his birthplace to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Not only his birthplace, Caitanya Mahaprabhu actually revealed the whole Navadvip Mandala, the holy places in Mayapur, in Navadvip. The Lord revealed those holy places to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we can see that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, because he took up the preaching mission so strongly, he was empowered to establish 64 mats, 64 temples throughout India. And then we see also, following the same line, Srila Prabhupada, because he took up the preaching mission of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he was empowered to establish Krishna consciousness throughout the whole world. And he established 108 temples across the world before he left this planet. And we can also see those devotees who are carrying out the mission of Caitanya Mahaprabhu by traveling everywhere in the world to establish Krishna consciousness. Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu is empowering them. You can also be empowered. Each and every one of us in this room can be empowered by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu if we simply accept to spread Krishna consciousness. So the easiest way we can please the Lord, the easiest way we can endear ourselves to Krishna is to take up the preaching mission. That is the easiest way. Srila Prabhupada says that if you want Krishna to recognize you in a very short time, take up the preaching mission. That is the easiest way to please Krishna. It is the easiest way to attract Krishna's attention. Because the Lord wants to reveal this secret of love of Godhead to the world. And you become an agent for revealing that secret to the world. So we have such an important function. We have such an important duty. We have such an important work distributing Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And when you do that, Krishna will immediately recognize you. Krishna will immediately empower you. And As Krishna says here, there is no one who is dear to me than that person who, there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. If you want to be very dear to Krishna, then you must take up the preaching mission very vigorously. If you want to go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime, then take up the preaching mission very vigorously. It is the easiest way to reach Goloka Vrindavan. Anyone who takes up this preaching mission of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately attracts Krishna's attention. And he is registered in Goloka Vrindavan. So this is an opportunity for all of us to register our presence in Goloka Vrindavan by taking to this preaching mission. So that is the message today. How we can endear ourselves to Lord Krishna, how we can become dear to Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu by expanding his mission. Anyone who expands the Lord's mission, anyone who tries to reach another person and introduce Krishna consciousness to him, anyone who takes up the austerity of trying to distribute this knowledge to another living entity, he becomes dear to Krishna. Krishna came back into this world disguised as Caitanya Mahaprabhu just to distribute this secret knowledge of love of Godhead. And each and every one of us here can become an instrument in distributing this information, distributing this knowledge. And as soon as we do that, we become very dear to Krishna. So we can become dear to Krishna by expanding his preaching mission. Is that difficult for us to do? Is that difficult for us to do? No. Prabhu says no. Is that difficult for you to do? No. It's not difficult. So let us organize ourselves and see how we can distribute Krishna consciousness very vigorously, very aggressively. And by doing so, we will become very dear to Krishna. Krishna himself is saying it here. He's saying it. Any questions? Any comments? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for a wonderful lecture. Please, you know that in Kali Yuga, everything is against us. Our family, they are against us. Our own children, our parents, even our own body is against us. So, for those who will think that they are the patients, that they need this kind of dosage, they are not ready to accept it. For that matter, they are not a devotee. And the text, many mention that this scripture have to be discussed only among devotees. They are not ready to accept this. So what should be our mood? Isn't that we are a sheep going into the lands of the wolf? So what should be our mindset when taking this assignment up? Actually, I have two questions. This is the first question.
Okay, let's answer this one first. Yes. Maybe before 1965. Before 1965, were there devotees in the world? Yes, there were devotees in India. But were there devotees in the Western world? No. Before 1965, this knowledge was not known in the Western world. We're all demons. But how do we come across this knowledge? Because one devotee, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, he left the shores of India and he went to America and single-handedly started preaching. And that effort of that single person has spread throughout the world. Before 1981, this movement started here in Ghana in 1981. Before 1981, there were no devotees, there were no temples, there was nothing. Nobody heard about Krishna. Nobody. But devotees from America came to Ghana in 1981 and they started preaching. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Now we have temples. We have temple in Accra, temple in Ikoko, temple in Kumasi, temple in Sunyani, temple in Winneba, temple in Takoradi, temple in Takwa, and so on. How is that possible? Because of the preaching effort. So yes, people may be demons. People may not be interested in Krishna consciousness. But it's the duty of the devotees to find ways and means to induce these people to take to Krishna consciousness. Just as we were also demons. We were not born devotees. We were not. But the devotees of the Lord, they came to us and they convinced us that this is very important. And gradually, even though we did not like the idea, but by associating with them, by hearing from them, gradually we have all come this far. Before 1981, there was no Krishna temple in Ghana. There was no Krishna devotee in Ghana. There was nothing about Krishna consciousness in Ghana. But as soon as devotees came and started preaching, gradually, today we have a number of centers and we have many devotees. So the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, Kali Yuga is a very terrible age. People are not interested in spiritual life. We are actually swimming against the current. We are swimming against the current. Preaching or practicing Krishna consciousness in Kali Yuga is like swimming against the strong current of Kali Yuga. Everybody is going this way, but you are going that way. It's not going to be easy. But in the association of devotees, so long as we keep the association of devotees, we can swim against the current. So, our duty is to find ways and means to impart this knowledge. See, amongst the non-devotees, there are some who are innocent. Among the non-devotees, there are some who are inquisitive. Also among the non-devotees, there are some who are completely against the Lord. They are demonic. So therefore, it is said that the Madhyama Adhikari, the middle class devotee, he identifies these categories of devotees: the inquisitive, the innocent, and the demons. He preaches to the innocent, he preaches to the inquisitive, and somehow he avoids the demonic. So even though Srila Prabhupada also mentioned in one purport that even though Krishna is saying this knowledge should not be discussed with non-devotees, the devotees, they risk to go and even discuss with the non-devotees. So Prabhupada says that the devotees are even more merciful than Krishna. Even though Krishna is saying that this knowledge should not be given to non-devotees who are envious of him, Still, the devotees, they go the extra mile. They even go against Krishna's instruction in order to give up this knowledge. So therefore, Prabhupada says the devotees are more merciful than Krishna. Because Krishna is saying, don't discuss this knowledge with non-devotees. But the devotees are thinking, I can make the non-devotees devotees. Actually, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada says that we have only one business. Our only business is to convert the non-devotees into devotees. That is our only business. We have no other business. Because actually everyone is Krishna Nitya Das. Everyone is Krishna's servant. But they have forgotten. So our duty is to go out there and remind them that, my dear friend, you are not the boss of this material world. You are simply a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is what will make you happy. So, it is our duty to spread this Krishna consciousness so that those who are innocent, those who are inquisitive, those who are searching, they will meet the devotees and they will become devotees. And even sometimes, some of the demons, they also become devotees. I think I narrated a story in Spain. A girl, a lady, a temple devotee, went on Sankirtan in a train. And then she met a demon, a proper demon in the train. He was dressed in three-piece suit with a briefcase. And he approached the girl was preaching from coach to coach. And he saw this man dressed in a three-piece suit. And he thought he was a gentleman. So he approached him and said, "Gentleman, please, can you have this book? It will teach you something very special." The guy was so demonic, he immediately got angry. He snatched the book from the girl. It was a Krishna book, tore it into two, and bangs it on the ground. And that wasn't enough. She pushed the girl out of the train, a moving train. Can you imagine that? She pushed the girl out of the moving train. The girl fell out and broke her shoulder. And the train left her. It was a fast moving train. Some standby people who witnessed the girl fell out through the train. They picked her up, they rushed her to the hospital, and she recovered. They treated her shoulder, she recovered. And this demon who pushed the lady out of the train, she was very proud. She took the book that was torn into two, the Krishna book, she tore into two, put it in his suitcase, his briefcase, and took it home so he would show it to his wife, what he has done. So he went home, and then he showed the wife, "See, today I did something very special. Those Hare Krishnas, they were disturbing me in the train. So I snatched the book from her, I tore it into pieces, and I pushed her out of the train." She was happy. Now he has done that. After some years, the wife died. And their only daughter, they had only one daughter. Their daughter ran away and left him in the house. So he was alone in the house. So he decided to commit suicide because his wife is dead. His only daughter has run away. He's the only one left in the house. So he decided that he will commit suicide. But he decided that to commit suicide, he wanted to read something for the last. So when he put that book, he tore into two on his shelf. The house girl, the cleaner in the house, saw the book torn into two. He thought it's one of the master's books. So she took it and mended it nicely. Got glue and mended it very nicely and put it among the books. So when this man had decided to commit suicide, he went to take a book from his shelf. And the super soul guided his hand. He picked that very book, the Krishna book, that he had torn into pieces. and the maidservant had mended it. He picked that book. And then he opened exactly where Vasudeva is preaching to Kamsa. The story of Devaki's wedding. When Devaki was wedding and Kamsa was taking, Devaki is the sister of Kamsa. Kamsa was driving a chariot of Devaki's wedding. And then they heard the voice, the aerial voice, that the 8th child will cause the death of Kamsa. So Kamsa became very disturbed. And he wanted to kill Devaki. So Vasudeva has to preach to Kamsa to dissuade him from killing his sister. So there Vasudeva is saying that death is not the end, that these bodies are just temporary bodies. So he was preaching to Kamsa that even death is not the end. So this demon, he opened exactly that page where Vasudeva is preaching to Kamsa. And when he read that message, it hit him very hard. That, why do I have to kill myself? Death is not the end. My wife is dead, but we shall meet again. So why should I kill myself? So that message went deep down into his consciousness. And then he continued to read the book. He continued to read the book. He continued to read the book. He read the whole Krishna book. At the end of the book, he saw the address of the temple and the telephone number. He picked up the phone. He called the temple. And the temple president picked the number. He said, "Is that a Hare Krishna temple?" He said, "Yes." He said, "What time are you open?" He gave him the time. He jumped into his car. He drove to the temple. When I met the temple president and said that I have come to confess my sin. And the president said, "What is it?" He said, he started shedding tears. He started crying. I said, "Tell me, what is it?" He said, "I did something many, many years ago, which was very, very bad. And I have come to confess. Please forgive me. Will you forgive me if I tell you the sin I've committed?" He said, "You tell us." He said, "One of your ladies was distributing books in the train. And she gave me a book. And I took the book, I tore it into pieces, and I pushed her out of the train. I don't know whether she has died or she survived. So I'm coming to confess. Please forgive me." So, as they were talking, that lady, she pushed out of the train, came right into the president's office. And he could recognize, the man could recognize the lady, but the lady did not recognize the man. So the man said, "This is the lady I pushed out of the train. I'm very happy to see her alive." So the president called the lady. She came, and the man confessed, offered his obeisances. And the lady, she has already forgotten. It was many years ago. She has forgotten the whole incident. But then, immediately, he wrote a check, 10,000, what do they call their Spanish money? Huh? Spanish money? That time it wasn't euro. Now it's euro, but that time it was something else. They have their own currency. They have their currency. So he wrote 10,000 check, which is a big amount, and donated to the temple. Then from that day onwards, he was coming to the temple. He would come attend morning program. Then he started attending evening program. And one day, he packed all his load and luggage and came to the president and said, "I want to live in the temple. I want to become a devotee." And so, he became a devotee. He sold his house, gave the money to the temple, and packed to the temple. And after a few years, he became a very powerful Sankirtan devotee. He took up that mission very strongly. And eventually, he became the temple president of Spain. So even demons can become preachers. Demons can become devotees. What's the second question?
Thank you very much. It's not direct. The second question is not
Directly.
directly related to today's message.
Okay.
But I think as a spiritual organization, the question is still needed. My question is: we're in an era of this pandemic,
Yeah.
whereby no spiritual organization has ever come out to say this is the solution for now. So we are only relying on the so-called materialists, the doctors and co. So I would like to know the stand of we, the Hare Krishnas, and as a spiritual organization. And moreover, we have a vaccine in our midst. As a spiritualist or devotees, are we to go for it or we are not to go for it? Hare Krishna.
Well, this is a very dicey question, but we'll try to say something. Srila Prabhupada make a reference to a pandemic that happened when he was a child in Calcutta. There was this plague that was killing many people in Calcutta. And there was no solution. Nothing could stop the plague. And the government has no solution. So one saintly man, one sadhu in Calcutta, decided to organize a Harinam. And he started kirtan from house to house, street to street, road to road, section to section. And many people joined him. Even it is said Muslims joined, Hindus joined, everybody joined. A very huge Harinam party. And they were singing the holy names of Krishna, and they were going from house to house, street to street. And what happened? In the shortest possible time, the pandemic ended. It ended. That was the end of that pandemic in Calcutta. So, this coronavirus, it is so interesting that, you see, the way it happened, it just took everybody by surprise. That people are not thinking of a spiritual solution. But we can see that because we are chanting Hare Krishna seriously, it is not affecting devotees so much. I said this in Vrindavan. Just at the beginning of this corona, I happened to give class in the Vrindavan temple, in Krishna Balaram temple. And somebody asked me a question concerning the disease. And I said that actually, if we increase our spiritual activities, if we increase our bhajans, we increase our kirtans, we increase the glorification of Krishna, we can control the virus. The virus is a material disease. It's part of the material energy of Krishna. And the spiritual energy is superior to the material energy. No doubt about it. So if we evoke the spiritual energy in a very strong way, this virus can be controlled. Because it is material. And for me, I can say that I've seen a few devotees got the virus. We have lost some devotees through this virus, but majority of the devotees are safe. Why? Because of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra we are chanting. See, this virus becomes effective when your immunity is lowered. When your immunity is lowered, then the virus have effect on you. If your immunity is strong, it has no effect on you. And how do you maintain a strong immunity? By freeing yourself from anxiety. If you have no anxiety in your mind, your immunity becomes strong. If you are full of anxiety, your immunity becomes weak. So, actually, it is said that this coronavirus is a demonic agenda. It's a demonic agenda to reduce the world population. It is actually done by the elite. The rich few, they are thinking that the material resources are going to reduce with the increase of world population. So they decided that they should reduce the world population by this virus. And so they just increase the figures like anything, just to create anxiety. And this anxiety reduces people's immunity. And when your immunity is reduced, then you are exposed to the virus. But if you are chanting your rounds very strongly and you maintain your spiritual level very strongly, the virus should not come close to you. I gave this answer in Vrindavan, that if we maintain our strong spiritual position, our sadhanas very strongly, with no anxiety, don't worry about this thing. Of course, we are not saying don't follow the protocols. Follow the protocols. But don't put it in your mind and be so afraid, so worried about it. If you are so worried about it, it affects your immunity. And when your immunity is low, then you stand a chance of getting the virus. So by chanting Hare Krishna, by practicing Krishna consciousness very strongly, that is our real immunity. Now coming to the issue of the vaccine. So actually, if we have embarked on a worldwide Harinam program, a strong Harinam program throughout the world, if we have done that, all the spiritual organizations come together and start a strong Harinam party around the world, just as they did in Calcutta, we could have checked this virus. But everybody is so afraid of this virus that we have gone to hide in a corner. Regarding the vaccine, the GBC has issued a statement. They said, health is wealth. To practice Krishna consciousness, we need to be in good health. If you don't have good health, you cannot practice Krishna consciousness. Therefore, whatever will give you good health, you should do that. So, if the vaccine is going to give you good health, you should do that. But the GBC is not making it mandatory. It is optional. Some devotees feel they don't need the virus and the vaccine. It's over to them. It's an individual affair. And some devotees feel there is a need for the vaccine. You go for it. But it is an individual affair. If you think that you have strong antibodies, strong immunity, that without the vaccine you can survive, that is left to you. And if you feel you don't have that strong immunity and you need vaccination to boost your immunity. Actually, what is vaccination? Vaccination means that they introduce the virus into your system. They make the virus weak. They make it less dangerous. And they inject it into your body so that your antibodies will begin to produce chemicals to fight the virus. They introduce a non-harmful virus into your system. And that non-harmful virus will stimulate the production of antibodies to fight the virus. That is what vaccine means. It is the virus that they are introducing into your body. But it is weakened. It is treated that it cannot kill you. It can only stimulate the production of antibodies to fight the virus. So if you have a very strong antibody, strong immunity system, and you feel you don't need it, that is your private decision. Nobody should force you to take any vaccine. But if you feel that you don't have that strong immunity system and you need to boost your immunity system, then you go for the vaccine. It is optional. The GBC does not compel every devotee to go for or not to go for. It is an individual issue. It is a health matter. And when it comes to health, it is an individual decision. Thank you. So I think our time is up. Yeah. So we close from here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.